It's episode 607 of the Locked On Rangers podcast. On today's show, we are doing the 50-game review. Where are the Rangers 50 games in the season? Who's been bad? Who's been good? And who has been a literal shrug emoji at this point? All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On the Texas Rangers. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan since 2010, the host and founder for all 4 seasons of this Locked On Rangers podcast. It's Friday. Happy Friday, y'all. June 3rd. Your Rangers are 24-26, once again, sitting at 3rd place in the American League West. Thank y'all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. And the best way you can help the show is to subscribe on YouTube, where we're getting closer and closer and closer to our 1,000 subscribers by the All-Star break mark. And comment something on YouTube. Comment, wow, these 50 games blew by. Comment, I don't know. Comment something. Happy Friday. Whatever you want. But it's 50 games into the season. I'm going to talk about this 50 game real quickly, and then I'll get into the good, the bad, and not the ugly, because as Katie Nolan said on her podcast, I am adopting that rule. We do not objectify athletes on this podcast, so we're going to say the shrug emoji, because, ugly is just really bad. So I'd rather do a question mark, because that's way more interesting than who's ugly. Now, let's get into, speaking of ugly, let's get into this loss by the Rangers in their 50th game, dropping them 2 games below 500, a 3-1 loss to the hated Corey Kluber. Now, it's just a sports hate. It's not a real hate, and it's a little childish, a little juvenile, but you know what? I don't care. I'm still mad at him. I'm still mad at I believe Colleyville? I want to say Colleyville. It wasn't Colleyville. Maybe somewhere around that area, somewhere around the DFW area. I think he went to Colleyville here. I cannot remember, but he is from the DFW area, and he does not claim it, even though he was born in Birmingham, Alabama, which I did not know. But he had a fantastic game this one, regrettably. Went 6 innings of shutout ball. Well, mostly shutout ball until Marcus Semien got to him. Only allowed 4 hits. One of them was Marcus Semien's first home run at home, second home run of the season. One of the only 2 really, well, I guess I'll give 3. I'll give 3 decent things the Rangers did offensively. Josh Smith, 3rd major league start, leads off in the game and leads off with a double off of a multi-time Cy Young winner. That's pretty darn impressive. He had a great at-bat, or a great plate appearance, I should say, in extra innings, and that extra innings loss. There was, I believe, a 10-pitch walk. It was just so incredibly impressive, fouling off pitches. We know he's an on-base machine, and he's gotten on base at a really high rate in college and in the minors. But doing it at the major league level is a whole different story. I believe he had it on base in the 380s this year in AAA. But he took some really close pitches, fouled off some really close pitches that he couldn't quite take, and worked a walk in extra innings. That was the most impressive at-bat of the game in the extra innings loss. But this is a pretty impressive at-bat as well, getting a double. His first major league extra base hit came off Corey Kluber. That's something you can be able to say forever. Jonah Heim had his 6th double of the season, Simeon's 2nd homer. Multi-hit game for Heim and Adolis Garcia, and other than that, nothing. Pretty much nothing from this offense. Cory Sager had a day off for a day game. The Rangers have been playing a whole lot. They haven't had a whole lot of off days as of late, and even though Seager's been doing fantastic work as of late, they thought, all right, let's give him a day off and see Marcus Semien at shortstop. And he looked fantastic at shortstop defensively. Love seeing that for him, get him a little bit of confidence back in his glove. He's made a couple of errors that he didn't make last year. This was another bad day with hitting and runners in scoring position, 1 for 7 after going, I believe, 1 for 13 in yesterday's game, 2 for 10 for the Rays, so it's not like they did much better. But this is a bad start for Taylor Hearn, really frustrating for him. 4 innings in this one. Also, funny number, Corey Kluber threw 69 pitches through 6 innings. I'm not exactly sure why he got pulled in this one. But, Taylor Hearn was not efficient with his pitches either. 89 pitches in this one, 52 of them for strikes, 4 walks in 4 innings, and 3 runs. All of those were earned. 6 hits as well. lot of base runners scattered around, and I got to say, Garrett Richards, for all the trash, I just need to start talking trash on Rangers players more, because once I do, they start to do really well. It seems like this is a trend. Maybe they all listen to the podcast like, hey, listen to this idiot. He thinks you suck. I don't suck. Let me show him how much I don't suck. Garrett Richards has been really darn good in his last couple of appearances as a multi-inning guy. He went 2 innings in this one, did scatter a couple base runners, but didn't allow a run. Same with Brock Burke. Actually, he scattered 3 base runners, didn't strike anybody out, worked 2 shutout innings, capped the Rangers in this one, and Brett Martin had a shutout inning as well. But the Rangers offense wasn't able to do much of anything outside of the couple of hits that were scattered around. Only 6 hits in this one and 1 walk. The only run, again, came off the solo shot by Marcus Semien. Love to see that. Maybe play him at shortstop a little more and he'll hit more homers. I don't think that's going to happen because, again, you have Cory Sager there. But kind of a regrettable game. Not great. More really good relievers used by the Rays. I say that like there's bad relievers in the Rays bullpen. There really aren't. They're all pretty darn good. I mean, Armstrong has an 8.31 ERA, but even he worked a perfect 2 outs. So, again, the Rays having an immaculate bullpen. Same with Thompson, as an ERA is 6.5, worked a perfect inning to close this one out. But, yeah, not a great showing for the Rangers. But I need to get into the good, the bad, and the shrug emoji of this one, of this team, because we're 50 games in. This is about where you think you can have a kind of a grip on where the team is. Our Paul Francis Sullivan, please call him Sully, host of the Locked On MLB podcast, which I was on today's episode, actually. Might be in your Locked On Rangers feeds tomorrow as a bonus episode. I don't know, but if not, then go check out the podcast with him. He said there's 2 main points where you can check where your team is, and that's Memorial Day, which we just passed. We're still in the same week, so I'm still counting it. And then August 1st. I think you can also kind of do that at the All-Star break, but, those are the 2 big checkpoints, and I think that's right. And we got a 50-game sample size. We have passed the small sample size taboo, whatever moniker that said you can't evaluate something after a certain number of whatevers. Now, you can. You can evaluate the heck out of all of this. We have 196 plate appearances from Marcus Semien, so we know a little bit of how he's doing this season. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to get into the good, the bad, and the shrug emoji. But first, I want to tell y'all about this episode's sponsor. It's LinkedIn. With spring in the air, it's time for renewal and growth personally and professionally. As your small business grows, LinkedIn Jobs is here to make it easier to find the people that you want to talk to faster and for free. Create a free job post in minutes on LinkedIn Jobs to reach your network and beyond to the world's the largest professional network of over 810 million people. Then add your job to the purple hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word you're hiring so your network can help find the right people to hire. They got simple tools like screening questions, makes it easy to find the candidates that you want, and it's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the candidates you want to talk to faster. Did you know every week nearly 40 million job seekers visit LinkedIn? Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonmlb. That's linkedin.com/lockedonmlb to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. So we have something that we need your help on, listeners, an important favor to ask you. We put together a survey so we can learn more about listeners like you and make your favorite Locked On podcast even better. This is an opportunity to tell us what you like and don't like about the Locked On podcast. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey right now to get started. It won't take very long, and everyone that completes the survey can qualify for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Ticketmaster gift cards. To take our audience survey, go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey. Thanks for your help. So let's get into the good, the bad, and the shrug emoji. The good. Let's start with the good. It's always better to start with the good. And if we're starting with the good, we got to start with the best. Martin Perez has been the best pitcher on the Rangers, the best player on the Rangers, and probably the best pitcher in Major League Baseball this season. He's got a 2.7 WAR. He has got a 1.42 ERA, which leads all of Major League Baseball's ERA plus is 2.72 in 63 innings. He's been fantastic. He had an elite record-setting month of May, doing things that haven't been done in the American League since Johan Santana, and he's only signed to a 1-year, $4 million contract. Now, I wish that was a much bigger contract because I love Martin Perez, and even though I was very shrug emoji at the time of whatever, this is fine, he helps bolster the rotation, maybe he'll be okay. I did not think that he would do anything close to this. I didn't think he'd become one of those lefties who has that resurgence later on in their career to figure out, oh, I'm a big leaguer and I'm going to go kick big leaguers' butts. But he's done that, and it has been fantastic. Another good, Cory Sager has been fantastic for the Rangers, has been everything they wanted him to be. Now, the numbers don't look as great compared to, past seasons, but, we had a whole month of basically dead baseball, but he was still crushing home runs. He's got 11 home runs to lead all major league shortstops, an OPS plus of 114. That's right around where his average is going to be. He's got 11 home runs through 48 games, so you multiply that by 3. That might be his first 30 home run season. He's going to be close to 40 if he keeps up this pace for the entirety of the season. His career high in home runs is 26, which he did his rookie year in 2016. I thought he was going to pass that. I thought he'd get to 30 home runs this season. Now, Marcus Semien getting close to what I thought of 36 home runs. That might be a little bit trickier, but I think the over-under that BetOnline had his home run total at was 23 or something for Seager. He might get that. I don't know if he's going to get that by the All-Star break, but it's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean, he's got 3 home runs in the last week, so in his last 6 games. So he's been crushing them lately, and every home game he gets, he has been fantastic. He's still really rough on the road versus at home. At home, he's got a 928 OPS and 9 home runs in 24 games. And in 24 games on the road, he's got 2 home runs, and he got those on the last road trip. And he's got an OPS of 554. So it's coming up. It's over 550, whereas below 500 last time that I checked. So he's getting better a little bit there. Other goods, Cole Calhoun, after the month of May, very good. Very, very good. Solid contributor in the middle of the lineup, playing one of the best months that he's had in a long, long time. Very encouraging stuff, reliable in the middle of the order, hitting bombs, hitting the ball hard, playing passable defense in right field. Love to see it. Jonah Heim, very, very good. Third on the team in WAR behind only Seager and Perez. 1.2 WAR, OPS over 800 as a catcher. OPS plus of 134. Already got 6 home runs and 6 doubles in 36 games. Been every bit the catcher they needed him to. And with Mitch Garver hurt and maybe not catching for the rest of the year, being the starting catcher and putting up these numbers has been super, super encouraging. And it has been great, great, great stuff to see. Another good. We got to go for most of this bullpen. But especially Brock Burke, who has been downright fantastic. A 1.01 ERA in 26 2/3 innings, striking out 31, ERA plus of 385. That means he's 3.85 times better than the average major league pitcher. That's absolutely insane. For a guy coming off a horrendous season where it looked like his career might be over, you have a shoulder injury of that magnitude, you miss a whole year, then you come back and you look that, frankly, garbage. He was garbage last year, and he knows it. He could tell you. And there was no thought of him even breathing major league air last year. To go to this and be so effective in this role, and there's going to be some temptation to maybe put him in the starting rotation with some of the question marks in there, but you keep him in this role as long as it's effective. If you think he can hold up, then whatever. But straight up, he's been good. Same with Matt Moore. And some of these guys, relative to my expectations, have been very good. That is, Jonah Heim especially. Glenn Otto has been much better than my expectations. 7 starts, ERA under 4.5. That's about what I expected from him. Averaging right around 5 innings a start. That's solid. That's solid work for your number 5 guy in your rotation, but Taylor Hearn might be the worst starter in this rotation, which breaks my heart to say. He's averaging about, 4 1/3 innings per start. That's not great. And if there was anybody that was really ready at the AAA level, then he might be in jeopardy of losing that spot, but I don't necessarily think that there is right now. But yeah, Matt Bush coming off 2 years not pitching. Fantastic stuff for him so far. 3.38 ERA. Has been a little homer prone he has just one more walk than home runs in just under 19 innings. He got 4 home runs and 5 walks, but he's also struck out 25 in under 19 innings. His ERA plus is 16% better than league average. That's really nice to see. Same with John King, who has been in a rough way in a couple of outings lately, but still a solid contributor in that rotation. Dennis Santana, an ERA right around 1.5. And same with Matt Moore. I had literally zero expectations for Matt Moore. And I thought, oh, he's got a new curveball. Okay, that'll change him getting absolutely lit up. But it has. He's been very effective. Last couple outings haven't been super great for him. But the first, 10 or so were outstanding. He's still walking far too many for my taste, but you got two very effective left-handed multi-inning relievers, and you've got Garrett Richards, who is becoming more effective as a right-handed multi-inning reliever. Dennis Santana can go multiple innings if you need it to. This is a very versatile and strong bullpen, and Joe Barlow, as the Rangers closer, took that role last year, and I thought, okay, well, once some of these big guns come back, maybe some of the other guys will start to take this role from him. No. He's not giving it up. A 156 ERA, an ERA plus of 252. In 17 innings, he's striking out about a batter per inning. 9 saves, leads the team. Pitched in 17 games. Been very effective. Only a couple of home runs. Not too bad on the walks either, and not allowing very many base runners at all. His whip, he's allowing under a base runner per inning. His fielding independent pitching is skewed a little bit by a couple of home runs, but he's only walking 2.6 batters per 9 innings. He is giving up 1 home run per 9, which he's only thrown under 18 innings. So you give up 2 home runs, and that's a home run per 9. But he's been better than that. The rest of this bullpen has been mostly pretty darn good, and some very encouraging stuff from this team. Now, I'm going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at the bad and the shrug emoji of this team, because there's a lot of shrug emoji, and there's been a decent amount of bad, including basically that entire month of April. But first, this episode is brought to you by Built Bar. You guys know about Built Bar. I've still got some Built Bars in my fridge. I literally just ordered myself some today. If you don't know what Built Bar is, congratulations on your first time listening to the show. Welcome. Glad to have you. This is a baseball podcast with that talks about some really great tasting protein bars. They're covered in 100% chocolate. They're all made of collagen, which means it's the stuff that your body digests more naturally. It's better for you, and they taste like candy bars. They are protein bars, but they taste like candy bars, and they are healthy for you. They are fantastic. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Now, let's take a look at the bad, because there has been some frowny face, as I put it in my notes. And I want to start with the real bad. Let's just go ahead and rip that Band-Aid off. The real bad is just no longer here in a lot of these cases. Greg Holland. Greg Holland was in a really rough way. And I don't mean to pile on to Greg Holland, because he's had a fantastic career. He's won a World Series with Kansas City. He's been a very, very effective reliever at times, and a very poo-poo reliever at times. And this year, the last 3-4 years, it's been either he's been fantastic or poo-poo. And they found out really quick in this one. He only pitched in 5 games, had a 7.71 ERA, allowed 3 home runs in under 5 innings, which is not what you want to do. Now, I think maybe part of that was that he was facing Toronto, and I believe a couple of those outings. But again, you just cannot get lit up to that magnitude. And the Rangers have a lot of options in their bullpen. And so, I don't know. He just could not stick. And the rest of this bullpen has been really darn effective. So, I'm not sad about losing Greg Holland. I don't think the Rangers made a mistake letting him go when they did. Speaking of bullpen guys who are no longer here, I want to look this up really quick because I can't remember the name of the guy, but Albert Abreu, who is designated for assignment, has been traded to Kansas City. Where'd we go? Come on, John Blake. He has been traded to Kansas City for a reliever who has been kind of hit or miss, according to our Locked On MLB Prospects guy. He's got some pretty decent raw stuff. I think he's got a pretty good changeup. I don't know if he's going to be in the major leagues to start right away, but good on the Rangers for getting something from Albert Abreu, who was not able to stay in the strike zone really at all in his time there. Josh Sborz is also on the bad, has a ERA over 10 in 8 games, not really what you're looking for. And Spencer Howard, who did this week have a pretty nice 5 shutout inning start in AAA. Love to see that. Like to see him actually going 5 innings. That is what you're going for as a starter. And striking out, I believe, 6 in that one. So that was encouraging. But at the major league level, 3 games, only one of those was a start. 12 .15 ERA, and I saw it in person, and it was decidedly not good. When you're giving up about a home run per inning, that's bad. You don't want to do that. Also, well, the walks were at least not a problem. Well, still a little bit of a problem. 2 walks in 6 2/3 innings, and he struck out 12 in those under 7 innings. But when you're allowing a home run per inning, you're not fooling anybody. That's not going to freaking fly. And it did not fly for the Rangers. Also in the bad category, just graze very, very quickly over the rest of these guys. Most of these guys. Colby Howard, not great. Nick Solak, not great. Willie Calhoun, really not great. Andy Ibanez, bits of okay, providing value, but offensively, kind of in the stinker. Defensively, he's providing a lot of value. That's why he's still on the roster. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if he is not on the roster at the end of the season or even in about a month or so. Josh Smith is going to take a lot of his reps at third base because Josh Smith is a pretty decent defensive third baseman. I don't know if he's providing the same value as Andy Ibanez defensively, but on the base pass, I think he's a smidge faster, smidge better of a base runner. He is an on-base machine, and I do think he has more power than Andy Ibanez, who has been a pretty darn good doubles hitter for most of his career, but is not hitting a whole lot of doubles or getting a whole lot of hits. It had started to turn around just a little bit right before the Rangers called up Josh Smith, which kind of sucks timing-wise. But again, it happens. Willie Calhoun has been bad. Did have a multi-home run game en route to a 3-hit game earlier this week in AAA. But again, at the major league level, not great. Jon Gray, for the most part, until his last start, not great. Marcus Semien, for the most part, again, last 2 weeks he's been turning around, but for the most part, Marcus Semien has not been great in 49 games, has an OPS just right under 540, slugging under 300, on base under 260, hitting under 200 if that's your kind of thing. But he's got a pair of home runs now. He's going to start to get them in bunches, I believe, starting to feel a little bit more comfortable, starting to look more like himself, and he's never been chasing too much. He never really walked at a whole really big rate, but he's walking a little bit less this year, but he's not striking out some huge number. But again, defensively, that's also not been super great for him. He's not in the top 12 on this Rangers team in WAR, which is usually where you want some of your highest paid guys to be. But I have confidence that he'll break out of it. Other bads, there really hasn't been a whole lot of bad this year in terms of people who are still on this team. Culberson has not been super great, but again, he's like the last guy, the 12th infielder or the 12th position player on the roster, so there's not a whole lot of expectation there. Now, let's get to the shrug emoji, because baseball is a gray area a lot of times. There's a whole lot of games, and there's a whole lot of these guys. Everyone goes through slumps of really great, really bad, and there aren't a whole lot of, like, I feel like you're always either on a hot streak or on a cold streak. Like, it's just the nature of baseball. It's kind of how it is. There's not usually a whole lot of like, all right, this guy hits 250 for the season. So for the month of May, he's just going to hit 250. And then the month of June, he's going to hit 250. And then he's going to hit 250 in July as well. Like, it's just hot and cold, hot and cold. And these guys have had so many streaks of hot and cold that I'm not quite sure what to do with them just yet. Nathaniel Lowe, number 1 on my shrug emoji list. As of late, he has been crushing it. He had a nice, in terms of batting average to start the season, he was at around, for the first 3 weeks of the season, I believe he was in the top 5 of Major League Baseball in batting average, at least in the top 5 in the American League, hitting around 360 early on in the season, but was not getting any power. Again, part of that was dead baseball, but part of that was he was just not hitting the baseball hard. He is now doing the things that I wanted him to do last year, the things that I criticized him for, in terms of he did have a very high on base in, I believe, 361 last year. Very good on-base guy, but he has a ton of raw power, and he doesn't tap into it as much as I would like. And I wanted him to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit less passive, take a few less pitches. You could still have that decently high on-base total if you're staying aggressive. But for the last 14 days, he's played in 11 games. He's got a pair of home runs. He's hitting 342, on-base over 400, slugging over 575. That's an OPS of 984. I'd love to see he's got a triple and a double in that time span as well. 4 walks to 10 strikeouts. He's also got, in his last 7 days, the exact same OPS as he does over his last 14, 984. He's slugging over 600 in the last 7 days and has a home run, a triple, and a double. Been much more encouraging stuff from him. Looked a little bit better defensively as of late. Still, I don't think he might eventually be a half-decent defensive first baseman. You don't need to be Gold Glove caliber if you're providing the amount of offense that I think he can provide. He's hit lefties pretty well. But again, his overall season numbers have not been super great. He's got an OPS of 690, which is nice, but also at the same time not super nice. 4 home runs in 45 games. When you're a guy who's got to mash, you got to mash. At first base, even if you are great defensively, you got to mash. And, his OPS plus is 99. Hold on. Actually, I think for the season, it's right around league average. It's 102. So he's been 2% better than the average first baseman. So, again, offense is down on the whole. As of late, he's been smacking the crap out of baseballs lately. But Sam Huff, who I forgot to mention in the goods, he is also part of the goods, but it's also a little bit too early to tell. He hasn't played that many games. He's got 15, and he's had an OPS of 874. That's encouraging. Same with Josh Smith, who's literally played in 4 games and only started 3 of those games. He's got an OPS of 1171. I don't think he's going to continue to hit 444 with an on-base over 600. I just don't think that's going to happen. That may be me being a little bit of a pessimist, but, I'll be a little bit of a pessimist on that one. I still think he's going to be a valuable contributor, and he might end up taking that everyday third base job because he is a pretty darn good baseball player, and he's just about ready. But there's a few other question marks on this roster. I'm not quite sure what to make of them yet. Mitch Garver has had some moments of goodness as of late since he's come back from the injury, but I don't want to, persecute him for this, but we knew that he was injury prone, and I hate labeling players that because it's not their fault. A lot of times it happens in freak injuries and stuff. Like he got slid into at home by Shohei Ohtani, and that took him out for a couple of months. He got hit in the baseballs with the baseball, and he had to miss a month and a half. That's not his fault. That happened to anyone. You get slid into on your ankle by a guy that's that big as Shohei Ohtani and that fast, you're gonna get injured. You get hit in the nards with the baseball that hard, it's gonna hurt, and it's probably gonna keep you out for a while from playing baseball. Or for me, I would just stop existing on this planet if I got hit that hard in that place by a baseball. But he is not catching. That's where a lot of his value had come from, but it doesn't really matter because Sam Huff is here, and he is doing well when he is asked to step up. Jonah Heim has been fantastic. And, since he's come back from this injury, he's been fairly effective overall on the season. He's got a 711 OPS. The on base is under 300. You don't love that, but he's got 6 home runs in 33 games. This is a guy who's got massive power. And in terms of his extra numbers, this is a weird little trend I want to point out that I think I don't know what to make of it just yet, but it's just weird and I want to point it out. Now, Cory Sager, we're going to get into some advanced numbers here, so just bear with me. His strikeout rate is in the 69th percentile of baseball. That's nice. That's, top, 30%, whatever. He's not striking out a whole lot. But his whiff rate, in terms of how often he swings and misses, that's in the bottom third of baseball. His chase rate is in the 36th percentile, so also around the bottom third of baseball. But he's not striking out. So he's doing that. I'm thinking that it means that he's doing that on early pitches. He's striking out or chasing or whatever on early pitches. But once it gets 2 strikes, he tends to shorten up and have those long, prolonged at-bats. He is a guy who loves to swing on the first pitch and does a lot of damage on it. But you look at Mitch Garver, his chase rate is in the 87th percentile. Now, his whiff rate is literally right around league average, but his strikeout rate is in the bottom 40% of baseball. So he's not chasing a whole lot. When he does, it is on 2 strikes. Just a kind of interesting little fact there. But he is a very patient hitter, walks at a pretty solid rate. His max exit velocity, which means when he hits the ball hardest, the top 20% of baseball. His hard to hit percentage is a little bit lower. Expected batting average, average exit velocity, expected WOBA, barrel percentage, all those in the bottom half of baseball. But I think those numbers are coming up. In terms of framing, he's about average, which, that's fine. I hope he does catch by the end of the season. I really have no idea on the timetable of that. It could be in 3 weeks. It could be in 2 months. It could be not for the rest of the season, but I don't freaking know. But since he's come back in the last 14 days, he's got an OPS of 892. He's got 3 home runs in that span. Actually, in the last 12 games, which is since he's been back, he's got an OPS literally 1 point above 900. On base of 314, which... Again, would like to see him walk just a little bit more. He is a patient guy. but he has that slugging of 587 since he's come back in 12 games. I've loved to see that. He's a DH-only guy for now, but still his bat warrants that of getting everyday playing time as a DH-only kind of guy. And the last couple of guys, really quickly, I want to touch on Taylor Hearn. I just don't want to put him in the bad category. That's just kind of where I am right now. I think maybe he should be. Dane Dunning is in the legit I don't know what to do with him category, because he's been fairly effective, and he's, a number 3, number 4 maybe kind of guy in your rotation, probably leaning more towards number 4. But he's had some moments where he's been very effective. He's striking out a lot more guys than I thought he would, but he's also walking a lot more. And he's a guy who just cannot get away with walking a whole lot of guys. That is my main problem with him. His ERA is at 90 on the season, or ERA plus, is at 90. If his actual ERA was at 90, I would very firmly put him in the bad category, and I don't think he'd be on the Major League roster. But his ERA is at 4.31. It's fine, 10 starts, 54 and a third innings, so he's averaging about 5 and a third innings per start. That's fine, solid work there. But again, the walks with 3.3 walks per 9 innings, I need that to go down. I would like it to be around Martin Perez's 2. I don't think it's going to be. I just want it to be under 3, really, at this point. Strikeouts per 9. He's striking out more than a batter per inning, and his FIP is lower than his ERA. His fielding independent pitching, which is just the things that pitchers can control, just the home runs and the walks and the strikeouts, is at 379, which is confusing because he's walked a decent number of guys and he's given up 6 home runs, about 1 home run per 9, which is fine, about league average, especially since we're used to seeing, 2 home runs per 9 for 2 of the Rangers starters last year. But again, I'm still not quite sure. I do still think that he is a Major League starter. I just don't know how good of one. And I kind of wanted to put Jon Gray in this don't know yet. But he's literally only had like the 2 or 3 good starts of the 7 that he's had. And the other ones have been kind of bad, and he's also been injured. So he's in the bad. He's moving towards the I don't know, trending more towards the good at this point. And the last one that I want to touch on is Adolis Garcia. He's kind of the same player he was last year. And that player he was last year was good. He was around a 4-win player. That's a solid Major League contributor. His defense has been about the same as it was last year. He's had some lapses, had some weird kind of routes that he's taken, some balls that he didn't catch that I thought that normally he would. He's still got one of the best, if not the best, arms in the outfield in all of baseball. He is hitting the ball as hard as nearly anybody. Average exit velo in the top 10% of baseball. He's barreling the ball a lot. His expected batting average is in the top 40% of baseball, 63rd percentile. But right now his expected batting average is 270. His actual batting average is 232. So that is climbing up. It was around 200. And he's got a couple of multi-hit games this week. He's still launching some dingers, playing some electrifying defense, and the walk rate is even lower than it was last year. I'm a little concerned about that. But his strikeout rate is also lower than last year. Last year he struck out 31% of the time. This year he's at 27.5%, so down a decent percentage. Last year he walked 5.1% of the time. And that was not great. That was the bottom 6% of the league. Now he's walking 4.4% of the time, which is a lower walk rate, but now is in the bottom 9% as opposed to it jumped up 3% of the league, even though he's walking even less. That means the league is walking even less. But offensively, he's been providing a lot of value. The expected numbers are starting to average out with where the actual numbers are starting to reach more of the expected numbers. The expected numbers are very good. Last 50 plate appearances, his expected WOBA is going way, way up there. He's still a dynamic player. I still think he's an everyday starter on a half-decent baseball team, which is what the Rangers are right now. I don't think the Rangers are rushing to replace him with anybody. And if they're looking for guys in free agency, I don't necessarily know that they even need to go try and get a Joey Gallo or some other outfielder that's there, or really worry too much about not having to call up Leote early, because Eli White is also in this shrug emoji category. Like, I don't really know what to make of him. He's provided a lot of value, but he's also not hitting. But then sometimes he does hit, but he's also super valuable defensively and on the base pass. Not really sure, but it's left field and center field. Still not really exactly sure what to do with him. I don't think Josh Smith is going to push him out of being an everyday starter anytime soon. He might push him into left field a couple of times because Smith hasn't played left field yet. He's only played center field, so but I'm not really sure what to do with Adolis. He's leaning more towards the good category, especially lately. He has been doing much better lately. He's still hitting some bombs. He is still playing some electrifying defense, and he is jumping up in the WAR rankings on this team. He's been a .8 WAR player that is 6th on this team, just behind Eli White. Eli White, yeah, who is 5th on this team in WAR at .9. So, again, that is why Eli White is in the I don't know the kind of good kind of category. Same with Adolis Garcia. Obviously, Adolis's offensive upside is a little bit higher, I think, than Eli White, and I still would like to see him walk a little bit more. But if he's just gonna be a guy who never walks, who strikes out a decent amount, but hits a lot of dingers and plays some really darn good defense and puts the ball in play a lot, I can live with that. I can most definitely live with that, and I can live with where these Rangers are right now. 24-26, just split a series with the Rays. Would have liked to seen them take one of these last 2 games. It really hurt losing these games in the way that they have lost them, not being able to put up any offense against Corey Kluber. It's not his fault that his arm fell off and he wasn't any good for the Rangers in 2020. They traded probably the best reliever in baseball who throws a 103-mile-an-hour cutter. It's fine. It's fine. I would do that trade again at the time in a heartbeat for a multi-time Cy Young winner, but it just sucks the way it worked out. And it also sucks that he threw a no-hitter against the Rangers in Arlington. That was just rude. Honestly, that was the rude part. Getting hurt, there's nothing he can do about that. But throwing a no-hitter against your hometown team, that's just rude. But anyway, this team is in a good place right now. I'm very excited to see what they can do in the month of June. As I said earlier this week, this is a much easier schedule in the month of June than it was in the month of May, when they were one of the better teams in baseball, going toe-to-toe with the Giants in Major League Baseball. Not the San Francisco baseball Giants or the New York football Giants, but the big guys like the Yankees with a lot of tall players and the Astros, who have been very good with a lot of small players. This team's going to play in a good place. 50 games in. Can't wait for the next 112 games of this season. Maybe even more if this team managed to sneak into a postseason spot. But thank you all so much for listening. For your next listen, check out the Locked On MLB podcast. I'm literally on there with Sully. Check it out. It's free wherever you get your podcasts. Great show. A lot of fun talking with Sully. That's going to do it for this edition, this week's editions of Locked On Rangers. And until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.